Welcome to the ADAverse, the Australian business community podcast for all things automation, data and AI.
Welcome to ADAverse, the podcast where we spotlight real-world stories of transformation through automation, data and AI. And I'm your host, Shaun Leisegang. Today we're speaking with a fast-scaling innovator in the premium funding space, IQumulate. With a strong focus on operational efficiency and future-focused technology, they've been on a journey to modernize processes, uplift teams, and accelerate growth. So joining us to share this story are two of the leaders behind the scenes. We've got Wai-Lum Tang, Head of Information Technology, and Tricia Kopka, Head of Operations and Process Improvement. So welcome to the ADAverse podcast.
Thanks, Shaun.
Thanks for having us.
So Trish, let's start off with you and let's kick off with the basics. So for anyone who doesn't know IQumulate in terms of what you do and what makes the business unique in the premium funding space, could you give us a bit of a background?
Yeah, sure. Fundamentally, we're a financial services company. We will actually pay for a client's premiums up front so they can remain covered throughout usually a 12-month period. They pay us back in monthly installments, which then smooths out their line of funding across that 12-month period. So rather than paying that big lump sum amount up front, we do that for them, which is great. In terms of what makes us unique, I think we provide flexible funding solutions, but we've been able to use technology to really smooth that process for our clients and ensure that we can actually be more, I use the word technology a lot, but we are very relationships focused, right? So putting technology in place of processes that we can help smooth the whole experience for the client helps us be more relationship and people focused on our business.
Yeah, brilliant. And well, across to you, right? So from a technology lens, how has IQumulate evolved in recent years? So what's changed most in terms of complexity and scale in the business?
Yeah, look, I think I've been in this role now for approaching 4 years, probably in the business approaching 7 years. And I think not too long ago, I shared with the leadership team a before and after of our enterprise architecture diagram. And it's almost like comparing an old Datsun with a electric vehicle now, right? Everything looks so simple back then. Everything was on-prem. Everything was, on one page. Now with the amount of investment, the time we've taken to listen to our customer and the technology that we've implemented, it is a lot more complicated. There's a lot more dials and switches behind the scene, but it's ensuring the customer who will hyper-focus on delivering really good service gets the best experience with our technology. So look, I would say it's a lot more complex, but hopefully simpler for our customers to do business with us. And from a technology standpoint, it is my job or my team's job to ensure we demystify the technology for our customer.
Yeah, I love that word hyper-focus and something that I use quite a lot. And I love how technology can empower our teams to provide those superior levels of customer service. So just kind of back to you. So when did it become clear that operational change was needed and what types of challenges or inefficiencies stood out to you and the team?
Well, it became very clear when, like every business, right, you're growing exponentially, our volumes were spiking. And if we were at that sort of juncture where we were like, get new staff on board to service the client because we wanted to maintain our service levels. And we realized that technology was becoming far more, I call digestible. Like 5 years ago, we were in that position where technology was becoming digestible for us. Even someone like me, who's an operations manager for 20 years, I could actually start to understand it. And it was pretty easily, we solutioned it pretty quickly and realised that technology was the way we were going to actually address it. We didn't want to expand with our costs. So, we needed to build scales in processes and we needed to look at all our manual repetitive tasks to make sure that we were doing them in a streamlined way, which is what we've done to date. But not just that, look at what we're doing and actually think about how we can do it better. And again, Wai-Lum said, being very hyper-focused on the client and making sure that their experience was streamlined.
Absolutely. And it's something we see a lot across different businesses that we work with. And when you have that automation first mindset, it's amazing what you can achieve. And even nowadays, we kind of talking a lot about AI agents and how these can perform certain pieces of work in our businesses. But really that automation first mindset is key. So, Wai-Lum, what were some of the early signs from an IT perspective that pointed to the need for automation and process transformation?
Yeah, look, I think one of the interesting things I saw when I joined this business was that it was a growing business. So we weren't a business that was sort of not always challenging the status quo. We're always looking ways to grow the business, help our customer. So that meant more customer queries. That also meant greater volumes in the quotes that we're generating, more loans that we were servicing. So the business as a whole was growing in many different metrics. Now we could throw more people at it, but obviously that isn't the right solution when you're a technologist like me. So one of the things I sort of did was speak to the business and go, look, can we do this smarter? Can we do this better? Is automation the right answer? Because it's not the answer for everything. If you sort of go, look, take every process and automate every process, that is not the right way to go. First thing is to challenge it and go, is that the process still viable? Is it the most optimal way of doing what we're doing now? And if that future state was to be automated with workflow, bots, RPA, or other smart AI, is it still going to look like that in the future? So I think what I hope to have brought to the table was a conversation about this is what we could do, but is how do we want to approach it? And then collaborate with, I guess, the leadership team. I'm going, okay, well, what are some of the important stuff we should tackle first?
Yeah, very wise words there, right? So automating everything is not often the answer, right? It's getting the right mix between automation, whether that be automation from a digital process automation perspective in combination with robotic process automation. It's using our people in the right mix, so to kind of give that superior level of customer service and relationships. And then obviously what we see, the third part of that dream team is often these little AI agents that come into play as well. And once you can get the mix across all three of those, that's really where you can supercharge your business operations. So maybe a question to the both of you. Was there a particular catalyst? So was there a project, a customer expectation, maybe even a growth target that gave the team a push to get started on the journey?
Well, we had a strategy, right? And it was a pretty big tagline saying being the premium funder of choice. And I'll be honest, that sort of led us down that path of what does that look like? We've got growing volumes. We want to maintain our costs like every business. I mean, that's just good sense. And so we started thinking about, okay, what can we do differently? And like I said, technology became more digestible for us. We started to realize that there was something we could implement into our business quite easily. And it wasn't really a question, was it? Everyone sort of jumped on board and just started thinking about what can we do from there. And that was probably 5 years ago that we did that. But volumes, I think, was the big spike. We've got to keep servicing our clients, and that was really the priority here.
Yeah, look, just to I guess to add to that is when you look at all the things that we do to service our customer, we, I would say, very accommodating. So therefore, we want to over-service them. We want to make sure that we're very flexible and we can take into account all their particular needs. And I think that was probably one of the catalysts. It was going, well, if we want to spend more time on that kind of focus, then all those repeatable stuff that we do for all the thousands of loans that we do, we probably don't want to be having a person managing that. Let the person manage the last mile care, let's call it, the part where it actually really changes that experience. But the other, the groundwork, right? Let's see if we can automate that. Let's see if we can get all that boring stuff out of the way. So if we talk about some of the projects we did, well, one of them was certainly that workflow project.
Yeah. So, we'll just lead into it. So workflow was basically when we've got loans going through the door, and we do something like 350 loans a day, right? So my team are burning and churning pretty quickly, and we're assessing loans and loan data points, and we have the same things that we have to do with each loan. We now have a robotic process to do that for us. And not only is it replicating the process, but it's actually getting smarter, where we would normally go to our clients and ask for certain pieces of information. Now we're accessing it through different sources in an automated way, so we can smooth out that whole client experience. We don't have to get that from the client or the broker themselves, and we can just move forward, and it gives us a faster speed decision. That's really what we're after here, because the broker wants the loan approved for the client. They want to get their premium settled. We want to move forward. So
so look, I can't remember the stats off the top of my head, but we're saving hours and hours of not asking for incorrect information by our people on the ground. We're getting that information cleaned up accurately at the point of, I guess, from the customer.
Origination.
From origination. So that extra, let's call it 10 minutes, 20 minutes of clarification with the customer that we normally would have had to spend before the smart workflow was implemented. We're now spending that 10, 20 minutes to fine-tune the loan, fine-tune that experience with the customer, ensuring that the structure of the loan has been really well tailored to that borrower, to their needs, right?
Yeah.
So there's that part. But we're also using a lot of different technologies to get that right outcome. So we alluded to the workflow, which is a bit of K2. We're using a bit of Nintex RPA to do some of that automation. And I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about later. We're also using a bit of the Microsoft Document Intelligence AI to help with some of the OCRing of our invoices as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. And again, I just pick up on a few things I heard there. So again, what we often see across customers is that you always have the inclination to throw more people at the problem, right? But Trish, as you said there, that's not good for skill sets, right? Because that's not going to scale really well. So it sounds like really where you started was those high volume manual workflows where there was lots of exceptions, document routing, things that are happening on emails. And really what you did is you started to automate some of those processes using a vast variety of different tools and technologies from market leaders out there in the space. Now, obviously, one of these things in automation, right, is obviously the people change and how you bring the organization along, right? So, Trish, maybe I'll start with you. How did your team respond to the change? Was there any standout early wins that helped you build momentum in the business?
Yeah, sure. I mean, like everything with change, in your life or in business, there are some people who are on board and early adapters, and there are some people you're having to pull along for the ride. And we know that because we've had past experience. A change management plan was really important to us, by which I mean it was just about keep communicating, but also, get some quick wins on the board, because people had that sort of attitude of, especially post-COVID, it was a bit like, yeah, we've sort of heard this before, how quick is this going to be? So we realised we had to get some quick wins, demonstrate the benefits, even if we were just getting 80% of the automated process, right? We didn't have to be perfect, just get some of it in, get the wins, demonstrate to people, and they start going, oh my goodness, look at the time I'm getting back in my day. And that then started spiralling to the point where today I'm getting people saying, hey, let's automate that. Let's automate this. And I'm going, okay, calm down a little bit. It's all great ideas and generation, but we've got a roadmap that we're moving through. Yeah, so I think communication and also just doing it and getting the wins.
Yeah, more very wise words there, right? I often say to people, you don't have to jump in headfirst into automation. You don't have to be perfect, right? So if I can save you 80% of the time, that's a great start, right? Let's start there and let's evolve and get better and better. And as you quite rightly pointed out, what happens is people start to see the benefit this type of technology has for them, how it gives them back time in the day. And very quickly that snowball starts to kind of accumulate and people, as you say, start to come to you with different ideas. So that's great from the business perspective. And Wai-Lum, how did you see did that change the IT relationship with the business? How did that kind of play out for you guys?
Oh, it got better, didn't it?
Well, look, I would say it got better, definitely, but there's a lot of learning, right? I think this is probably one of the first transformational technology-related projects that we did.
Yeah.
And it was a good partnership. I think technology has always been very good at delivering servers and networks and speeds and feeds and all that kind of stuff. But when you have to partner with the business to really change good customer outcome, that is tricky. That's not our normal kit pack, right? We normally like to sit and sort of look at servers and look at PCs, but when you're communicating with customers,
you have to talk to people like that.
When you have to talk to people, you're like, it's a bit scary. But it was a good learning curve for me as well, because I would have to say, before I got into the project, I didn't know how to generate a quote. I didn't appreciate all the exceptions in our loan. I didn't appreciate all the touch points that we had to get into. But when you work with a really good partner, really focus on getting the right outcome, both working to the same, hymn sheet, that's the right word, right? then there are always going to be mistakes along the way. And we didn't get it right the first time.
No, we didn't
get it right the second time.
No, we didn't.
Right? But it's that trust in each other that, hey, look, we're both learning. We're both trying to get to the right outcome. We know what the goal is. And look, it might take 6 months. Okay, and if it doesn't take 6 months, it might take a month. But let's learn from maybe one of those incremental learning. And I'll have to say, we didn't make some of those mistakes up front.
We would never be where we are today.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I feel like technology and the business is much closer because of these kind of projects.
Yeah, great.
And my team certainly appreciate a lot more about the challenges that the day-to-day the business faces. And I feel like we're now more part of the business. And I hate to say it, I feel like we're less of a technology team now and more of a, let's call it biz tech team, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm always asking my guys, how can we help the business do more? And we just happen to use technology to do it, right? So
I think the mantra across our whole business, though, which is really important for us, is how do we enable our people to service the client? And if we're all asking ourselves that one question, right, we're all rowing in the same direction. We're all having a very similar conversation, and we're using technology to help us drive that outcome. And I think we're talking the same language.
Absolutely.
Which we weren't initially, I can tell you. It wasn't my language.
Yeah. And it's again such interesting learnings, right? I think many people associate the word failure with something bad, right? Now, as you guys said, like what you've got to try and do when some of these things are new is you've got to experiment, you've got to learn from it, you've got to get better from it. And it's so good to hear that some of these, not necessarily failures early on, but some of the learnings you took have made you a better business at the end of the day and now allowed you to kind of supercharge your business operations. So that is... Trish, what measurable impact did you see? So was there faster processes, fewer errors, improved visibility? Tell us what changed across the business.
I think all of the above. So from a compliance perspective, we knew we were complying with processes and procedures that we needed to. So that was number one. Less manual touch meant less errors. So it meant getting it right first time because, human error is human error. You can't avoid that as long as it doesn't happen too much, as I say. But also, I always call it the speed to service. So making sure that we're getting back to our brokers and clients in a good time. And we were doing that. And we can see that we've got better at that. And I sort of track the metrics against what I call from the minute it comes in the door to the minute we get an approval. And we can do that really quickly now usually within an hour. And that's on complex loans that we're trying to fund. So that's been the notable difference. Doing more with less. So again, headcount hasn't changed in 5 years because volumes have spiked upwards. Headcounts remain flat, which has been fantastic. But also, I guess the tangible piece for me is just seeing people being able to service, like Wai-Lum suggested, on the exceptions rather than doing, I'm going to say the grunt work. They were able to move on and do the stuff that's a little bit sexier and a little, more value for our clients. Yeah. And engagement, can I just say, staff engagement has gone up from something like, I'm going to say 67% 5 years ago to 82 recently, which has been an amazing outcome. And I think, I can't say all of that's been driven by technology, but it's certainly made our people's life in this business a lot happier.
Look, what I'll probably also add to that is made their work more interesting as well.
That's right.
Like no one wants to turn up and do boring grunt work and having to chase up customer for information that probably shouldn't be right in the first place, right? What you want to do is interesting stuff where you're getting really good outcome, making your customer delighted, problem solving, right? Yeah. They're the stuff that makes people happy when they log off for the day, go, yeah, I've made a real difference. Not, hey, I called to confirm an address, right?
And building their skills as well. Like we've actually got staff now who were keying loans prior, are now looking at what robots are doing and looking at how they can do automation. And they're loving it. So I think it's turning those lights on. And I think, that's been really cool to see, actually.
Yeah, look, I like to think that we've also helped see some innovative, I guess, ideas in the business, or at least develop innovation as a thinking hub now. People are more inclined to go, oh, hey, have you thought about this? Have you tried this? I've got a really interesting idea. And the reason why they're willing to share that is because they know that we listen. They know that we're happy to trial it. And if we make mistakes or if it doesn't go right the first time, it's not necessarily a bad idea. It just means that we just got to fine tune it.
Yeah, exactly.
So I feel like a contributing factor to some of that engagement score is because we also listen to our staff, right? It's not always about the customer. I like to think it is most of the time, but it's our customer from a technology perspective. It's also the people in the business.
Yeah.
And I like to make sure I'm hearing and working with the people in the business all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, some amazing things there, right? So I always say when I chat to customers, there's really 3 reasons why you might automate in a business. The first reason is because you need to do more with less, right? So that's going to save you time or money. The second reason is to try and make more money, right? So do things quicker, better, faster. And obviously businesses are under pressure to make more money. And the third thing is because you've got to do them. So that's things like regulatory compliance and the like. And it certainly sounds like your story combines lots of those different things, which is why it's such a great story. And you kind of hit the nail on the head there. You spoke about kind of how you now use this to drive continuous improvement across the business. So everyone wants to get better. They've seen the value of what this automation can do for them. And what that does is it encourages people to come forward and say, hey guys, have we thought about this? Can we do this a little bit better? It's given maybe different career opportunities for people to automate using different tools. So it's just really, really nice example of how automation in action can have a massive impact on a business.
We just recently did this transformation project around quoting, and we have brokers send us invoices to manually quote every day, and we probably do about 1,800 of them a month across the business. And that used to take us something like 15 to 20 minutes per quote, right? We now use technology to do that within 3 minutes and deliver it to our salesperson's desk. And people are now, like, sometimes when we put it in, we didn't include some product types because there wasn't as much volume in those. And now they're coming to me saying, hey, it doesn't do that one. Can we make it do that one? And I'm like, yeah, okay. So we got it in, we limited the scope, but we're thinking about how can we extend that out even further. And there's more business cases applying every day from the team, just how we can use the same technology, which is fantastic.
Yeah, so good, right? So good. Now, Trish, I guess if there's people out there that are listening today and they go, hey, well, I'm an operations lead in a business. What advice would you give them to get started on the journey?
Yeah, this is not, I'm going to use the word sexy because we did that first project. We realized there was some learns, and then we made this very big realization that we need to document what we do now. And again, trust me, that took me 12 months and it took me a lot of grey hair. But we did it. And so we had 300 plus processes, but it was looking at them and saying, what does the process look like today so that we can challenge it, not necessarily just replicate it, but look at it and say, do we need to do it? How do we need to do it better? What can we do differently? And then automate. And without that, you wouldn't have a roadmap. You'd sort of be shooting fish in a pond, if that makes sense. But I would say that is the main thing that you need to do first. And we use Nintex ProMap to do that, which I absolutely love, because that really helped us get on our way and also help the rest of the business help map out things from their processes. I think that was my number one learning.
Yeah.
If there were other IT leaders listening to kind of this podcast, what would you kind of say to them about going ahead on their automation journey? Tell us a bit about what your biggest learnings were there and what your recommendations to them might be.
Yeah, sure. Look, just like learning a language, just like learning anything, the first iteration is the hardest part, right? I can tell you it took us much longer to write our first bot process. To write our first automation workflow. Even writing our first process map was probably very tricky the first time, right? But once you get past that first time, the second time becomes easier. The third time you build a bit more efficiency. The fourth time you might even build some mastery in it. So it escalates really well. And before long, instead of one person in the team gets it, it's 2, it's 4, it's 8. So my advice is, start small, and that's small payback. Might look not much for the first couple of months, but it does escalate. It is a snowball effect. Start now is my advice, because you will learn something that you realize you didn't appreciate about your business. As a technologist, sometimes we get a bit excited by the shiny tool, the new feature functionality. But it's not always about that. Sometimes the learning is that journey. It's the partnership that you build, the rapport that you start to develop with the people in the business. That's sometimes just as important as the outcome. And I know sometimes the outcome might look pretty ugly because it's the first time you've tried it.
Well, it did, didn't it?
In our case, yes. But I can tell you 100% from our experience that you will get there. And then the fourth iteration or the fifth, whatever it might be, that's your gold-plated outcome. That's the one. That's your flagship result. That's the one that you can sing off the cliff, right? About. But all that took a day one challenge, someone grinding away trying to figure it out. What does automation mean for that business?
So just start.
Exactly. Don't wait.
Yeah, I couldn't say it any better, right? I often say to people, like, it's no longer about if you're going to get started, but rather when, and when you need to be today, right? We've got businesses, we've got technology that are now AI born, automation born. They're born with all of these things as table stakes, right? So that means they can do things quicker, better, faster, provide superior levels of customer service. So people have to get started on this journey just to see how they can use this to great advantage.
Sure, and it's probably one last thing I'll just quickly add to that, sorry, and that is a lot of things can go wrong. So don't get me, all right?
Yeah.
I can tell a lot of things, but ask yourself, what if we get it right? How would this fundamentally change your business and the way you operate? So
you can't have a fear. You got to hold your fear back, don't you?
Absolutely.
Be brave.
Yes.
Be brave. Yeah, I like that. All right, awesome. Thank you for sharing all of that. So looking ahead, I mean, what's the next frontier for IQumulate in this space? Have you got some things you're excited about? Is that AI, analytics, something else? Tell us a bit more about what the future holds for you.
I'll let you take that one, but
really? Okay. Oh, look, I guess I wouldn't be ahead of IT if I don't talk about AI in every opportunity I can. But we are generally evaluating how can AI augment what we do really well. It's not to replace what we may already do or to replace processes. It's to go, okay, well, we're doing something really well. How can AI help augment that? How can it improve on that? Where can we sprinkle a bit of that AI magic in our current business to go, hey, turn our white glove service into hyper white glove service, let's call it, right?
Yeah, that's right?
So some of that interesting stuff that we're doing is about, okay, reducing time for our brokers to get a quote, right? We understand it's a bit boring, typing in invoices, getting it into the platform. What if we had a tool that can help you get that from 15 minutes down to 3 minutes, right? So some of the stats that Tricia mentioned before is a tool that we use internally, right? Once we get it right, we like to offer that as a feature there for our brokers. We're still evaluating it. We're not sure when we're going to release it, but it just, again, back to our philosophy is that you got to give it a go. You got to have a look at what's out there. And we generally believe AI could probably play a strong part in further continue the improvement of our customer service.
Yeah. I mean, I often say to people, AI will not replace you, but people who use AI will replace you, right? And I think that's
quite an interesting one.
Yeah.
So, and I think like what we're seeing in our space is obviously AI agents are the next big thing and the next evolution in automation. We've got this little AI agent dream team that complements human users and allows them to achieve that next and unlock the time, the value, all of those wonderful things. And that's something we're bringing to market pretty soon. So yeah, just really interesting to hear that coming from you as well, that you're looking at those AI accelerators of how they can work in combination with people to kind of, again, supercharge those business operations.
Yeah, I mean, AI doesn't have to be used necessarily for this, but a great example of it is, it takes something like 12 months to train somebody in a role here, right? Just to learn the ins and outs of processes. And we've reduced that down substantially, but AI could enhance that quite considerably. And we could really reduce that time down by another 3 months, I think, but from what we're looking at. So that's just one example that I think AI would be fantastic.
And there's some interesting stuff that we're evaluating as well at the moment in where AI is helping us better service our customers through call center analytics, right? How do we better understand the sentiments of our callers in real time? How do we ensure that we can summarize information quicker? How do we get to the crux of the problem in a faster and more meaningful way?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of interesting stuff that we're trying to do. But AI is just another tool in our technology kit bag. It is not the only thing. Happy. Lots of interesting stuff about IQumulate.
Yeah, sounds very exciting. And it's that combination between automation, data, and AI is really where you're going to unlock some of that value, right?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Now, listen, thank you so much for sharing your story. It's an amazing customer story. I look forward to having you back on the podcast at some stage just to hear what happened in the next chapter on the journey. But what we're going to move on to is the hot seat round, right? So for anyone who has not heard about the hot seat before, this is where we step a little bit away from automation and get to know the people behind the process. So Trish, you're up first, and I've got a couple of questions for you to get started. So Trish, tell us, what did you want to be when you grew up?
A rock singer.
That is really good. Next time I see you, I'm taking you to karaoke to see if you can bring your rock star dreams.
I know, you would never get me off the microphone, Shaun, unfortunately.
Yeah, brilliant. And what is something on your bucket list that you have already managed to tick off?
Oh, I had a lovely one last year where I took my mum to Greece to see the Acropolis, and we had a whole 6 weeks in Europe together, and that was amazing.
Oh, amazing. Yeah. I'm a big travel fan as well, and I've been to the Acropolis, amazing place, and some very special memories and memory dividends that will pay dividends for years to come, no doubt. Right?
It brought tears, Shaun, it brought tears. Yeah.
Nice. All right, well, I'm across to you, right? So what's something on your bucket list that you are yet to tick off?
Oh, good one. I've always wanted to go see the Aurora lights.
Yeah,
that's the one. I've always wanted to see that, and I've never had a chance to do that. And now with 2 little kids, I don't know when I might be able to do that.
It might be a while.
I might have to let them take me.
That's right.
That is one on my bucket list as well. I wanted to go try to see them in Iceland, and unfortunately the weather didn't play ball when we were there. I did hear about something pretty fun where you can jump on a flight from Sydney and you can fly down south and actually catch them from an airplane as well, right? So maybe you can take kids on an airplane. Yeah, there's some.
All right. That's my future bucket list then.
Good stuff. And we'll have another one for you.
Cool. Yeah.
All right. So if you could only recommend one book for the audience to read, what would it be and why?
Yeah, I've actually not read a book for quite a while. And the reason for that, I just mentioned I've got 2 young kids, and so, all my time is reading them books, The Hungry Caterpillars and all those interesting kid stories. But I have actually found time recently to read a book that I've always been wanting to read because I really like the movie, called One Day. And had starred Anne Hathaway in the movie. So if anyone's looking for an interesting book to get stuck back into reading when you haven't read for a long time, One Day is a wonderful book to read. And incidentally, I always wanted to be a writer. So maybe one day that might also become my bucket list. I've always wanted to write a book, be a published author. Maybe I'll write a kid's book.
Maybe.
Sounds like there's something that right there, right? So looking forward to seeing your book and reading it when it comes to when it gets published. All right, last but not least, in the hot seat, one for both of you. I'll let you decide who answers first. How do you want to be remembered?
I'll go first. As much as I love technology, I think it's all about personal relationships. It's about people. Always for me. And I want to be remembered as someone who has integrity, someone who is empathetic, but also curious. Because I said to someone this morning in the team, I said, what would you say is my sort of personality type? And they said, you always ask why. So being curious, I think, is really important.
Yeah, look, I like that word curious. I like to always stay curious and like to be remembered as someone who's always challenged the status quo, who's always asked the why, but also be willing to partner and help people. I like to leave a legacy of some sort when I leave and go, hey, we did do something amazing. We did do something really special here, and hopefully leave a really good memory of those stuff when people try to remember me.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Excellent. All right. Just before we wrap up, Trish, is there anything you want to leave the audience with? Maybe a final takeaway, challenge, reflection, something that you want to leave everyone with?
I would just say that eat the elephant one bite at a time. That would be my only recommendation.
Brilliant. And well, anything from your side?
Oh, look, I would echo that because I agree. Look, start now, start soon, and don't forget it. It's always in IT world, it's always the minimum viable proposition. Just start now, right? You never know. The first step might take you to a journey of wonderful things.
Yeah, brilliant. What a great way to end. All right. Thank you both, Tricia and Wai-Lum, for joining us and sharing your incredible story. IQumulate is such a great example of what's possible when you combine strategy with technology, and that comes together to build something amazing. So thank you so much for sharing your story. For any of our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, hit subscribe, make sure you leave us a review, and share this with someone who's on their own automation, data, or AI journey. So until next time, stay curious, keep innovating, and we'll see you in the ADAverse. Thank you.
Thank you.
Be part of the community by visiting adaverse.com.au. See you in the ADAverse.